News 12 Sports with Pat Murphy.
Great news regarding Bills tight end Kevin Everett. He moved his arms and legs today. And doctors now believe that's the wrong video, by the way. That is not the right video.
Hello. Good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon, and aloha. Sorry for the 19-minute delay. We had an absolute meltdown. For some reason, StreamYard just wouldn't let us start the show. It was very, very strange. But thankfully, we had Aaron DeSario, wizard of all things internet, and some guys in the chat got together and helped out. So thank you guys so much for being patient, sticking around. I'll get through things quickly, I promise. Before we get started, I want to say thank you to DOS Tapes. Link in the description. Go check out their music. All the tunes you hear here are from them. Thank you to the Patreon members. Thank you to the YouTube memberships out there. Thank you to everyone who sent super chats. Truly appreciate it. We are a public access channel supported by viewers like you, so we do appreciate those donations. If you can't donate, don't sweat it. The show is 1,000,000% free. Just like, share, subscribe, and help us grow the show. Truly appreciate it. Want to also say that we have links for not only our guests, our co-hosts, and the videos that we'll be talking about today, but we've got links for our Discord. So if you want to help, continue the conversation in a friendly format, please check out the Discord. The Discord is also free to join. Other than that, you guys, let's get started. We're running super late. Let's bring in Jane. Let's bring in Rather. How we doing?
Doing well now.
It's been a crazy couple days, eh, Rather?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I am right there with you, buddy.
Are you getting used to this by now, Rather?
Well, yeah. It's maybe someday. It's interesting.
Well, we're gonna talk about the response. One in particular response that we got to that clip from Thomas Fessler. We'll get to that last half hour of the show. We're going to have Alec Sears join us at the top of hour 2 to help us break down the 17 additional pages from the ODNI report that came out in June. And I think there's some interesting stuff in there. Nothing groundbreaking. A lot of stuff is blacked out. But we'll talk about it in the first half hour of hour 2. But for right now, we've got about 40 minutes left. Let's bring in our main guest for the day, shall we, guys?
Let's do it.
He's stranger to the show. He's a video game developer, a retired video game developer, author, and now kind of semi-unretired video game developer of a brand new hot simulator called Gimbal Rotation 1.0. Can't wait to talk to him about it. Let's bring him on. Mr. Mick West, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Hello, everybody. Glad to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you back. It's been a while, and man, there's a lot of stuff I've been wanting to catch up with you on, but obviously we're not going to be able to fit it in today. Sure. We'll concentrate on this new simulation that you made, but yeah, man, welcome back. It's nice to have you back.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been kind of like, being on the DL for a while, not doing very much since, kind of last December, really. And yeah, I just kind of been, kind of taking it slow. And now I'm back with a vengeance, I think.
Can I say something? Can I say something that I've noticed about you, sir?
Sure.
It's almost as if the resting Mick face, I've barely seen it. And most times I'm seeing you in interviews, I'm seeing you, talking places, and you got a smile on your face. It's like you're
must be my
lighter on the feet.
CIA NLP or something.
Mick West was blacked out in the report.
I might be in there, perhaps underneath one of those little black lines.
Well, hopefully, John Greenwald will be able to FOIA what's underneath those black lines.
Maybe
before we get your opinion on that, we'll end there. But I wanted to get to your new video or your new simulator.
Yeah.
That I think we all concurred that did a pretty good job at revealing, hey, this object's not rotating. It's the lens that's making it look like it's doing that, the rotation of the gimbal itself. But the thing that I love that you prefaced it with, and I think this is what we should preface everything that we're about to talk about with, is you didn't include the audio into the equation of this. You didn't account for the drone, for the swarm of whatever else was going on out there, and you also didn't debunk this. Like, I think that's the most important thing. I think you have a pretty good idea. I'm sure it's nothing that has to do with extraterrestrial or completely unidentified, and we'll talk about that in a second. But my point is that you're not 1,000,000% sure. There's still stuff that is debatable on whether or not it is what you think it is versus what the community thinks it is. If we want to say it like that.
Yeah, it's like a big problem I have with all the debunks I do is that people take whatever I do, whatever debunk you did, say I prove something's a balloon or something, and they try to extrapolate that to like every single other UFO case that's out there. And even within a single UFO case like this one, or say the Nimitz encounter, which is kind of a broader event, people will take me kind of explaining one aspect of it or giving a reasonable hypothesis for one aspect of it, and they'll say that I've claimed to debunk the entire thing. So if I say like the Nimitz FLIR-1 Tic Tac video doesn't actually show fast acceleration, then they'll say, well, are you calling David Fravor a liar? And what did Kevin Day say on the radar? And what about all these other things? But I'm just trying to focus on one thing. So I tried to be very careful this time to explain that all I was doing was just trying to see, is this a real object or is it a rotating glare? And it could be something really interesting behind.
Do you have a margin? Sorry, do you have like a margin of error on the glare hypothesis? So I'll say the only like asterisks I had from Luis and Rather, and is that I thought you made a really good case that it was a glare, and the visual I was following along, but I'm not a mathematics genius or anything, right? So I can't check your work, right? As others can. Do you have like a margin of error on that one, or just because you're able to recreate it doesn't necessarily mean it didn't rotate, right? So yeah. Well,
there's like I said in the video, there's 4 observables, and the first 3 aren't really things that you really need to put a number on, so you don't really need to give them a margin of error. I mean, the first one is just that while the jet is banking in the first 20 seconds, the object doesn't rotate. Whereas, the jet is banking, so you would expect to see the entire scene rotate because the camera rotates with the jet when it banks. So you expect to see everything rotate, and it just doesn't. And you could measure it, and it turns out it's 12 degrees, but it doesn't really matter what the margin of error there. You could say it's 12 degrees plus or minus 2 degrees if you're measuring it, but you can actually see it. You don't need to measure it. You can actually see what's going on. And the same thing with the other 2, the bumps. The object bumps a little bit before it starts to turn, as if there's some kind of anticipation in what's going on. But the only real reasonable explanation for that is that it's the camera. And then there's the kind of the waves of light moving around as the object rotates. Again, there's no need for a margin of error in that one.
So you're pretty confident on this one.
Yeah,
basically.
And when you get down to the last one, the one that actually is mathematically determined, you can see the margin of error actually kind of is the point in a way, because the idea there is that the camera's pointing a certain direction, and the camera itself has a little margin of error because it's got these big external pointing devices. You can rotate and you can move the head up and down. Like with a camera like this, you can move it like this or you can move it like that. But inside the camera, there is these tiny little mirrors that can move about an extra 5 degrees, which gives it a margin of error or a bit of flexibility in what it's pointing at. And I showed in my video and in the simulator that the error between what we're seeing in the video in terms of the glare rotating and the amount that it would need to rotate was just 3 degrees, which is a very, very small amount.
Yeah, one kind of obvious point that you made, or obvious in retrospect in your video, was the name of the video, Gimbal.
Yeah.
And could you maybe just explain a little bit what the actual gimbal mechanism is, and would a rotating object that's just entirely rotating, would it be reasonable that might be the gimbal that they're talking about, the object?
Well, yeah, if you look at the definition of gimbal, it's, I think that the actual dictionary definition is just essentially a rotating thing mounting on an axis. But in common usage, when we talk about a gimbal system, it's one axis that's inside another one. So here we can rotate, this camera, and this rotates this ball at the end. So if the ball goes up and down from this position, if I rotate it, it goes left and right. So it's a gimbal system, and the two axes together, when you rotate them, create this tracking, and it also creates the effect of having to rotate the camera. And then this necessary derotation, which creates the glare, which is all explained in the video. So you wouldn't say that something that's simply rotating is gimbaling. If it's if you got a jet and all it's doing is just banking or turning like this or whatever it's doing, there's no way you're going to refer to that as gimbaling. Gimbal refers to something like this. A gimbal camera system, you see them on drones. That's just the standard way that they're mounted. And on the AtFLIR system that took this particular video, they're mounted in a very particular way, which creates this rotation.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of telling in retrospect. It never occurred to me before.
It's the official name as well. I mean, it's not like it's something that was applied to it after it was released by the media or something like that. This is the name that's on the 1910 form that Lou Elizondo filled out, and the file name is gimbal.wmv, and there's gofast.wmv, and then there's FLIR1.wmv. Those are the official names in the Navy documentation. So I think it's very telling that they called it gimbal, and I think it's I speculated that it might be a training video, like they use it to demonstrate this type of thing, and perhaps it wasn't something that the pilots were familiar with, and so they were initially fooled by it, and so they needed to incorporate this type of thing into the training. Here's something you might occasionally see, and here's a good example, and it's the gimbal effect. But I don't know, and I think Susan Goff was asked, I think it might have been by me, if they were training videos, and she did say no. But who knows what Susan Goff means? Everyone's. But yes, so I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the video. Why do we have this? Was it 34-second video? Where did it come from? What was it for? What's the context of it? If it's a UFO video, why is it called gimbal? Gimbal refers to a camera, so what's going on?
What did you think about because Chris Lato obviously is, I think, one of your great sort of debaters where you guys respectfully debate. I always like your exchanges between each other. But his thing was he thought that maybe you didn't have the distance of the object right.
Sure, yeah. And there's kind of like a couple of things there. One is that Ryan Graves has said that the object was, I think, like between 10 miles away, like 6 to 8 miles away. I can't remember exactly what it was, but fairly closer than I would have thought. And Chris Lato did some calculations, which he said he thought put the object that's creating this glare at a certain distance. Now, Chris Lato agrees with me about the glare. I showed him this whole simulator, and we went through it, and I explained everything in it, and he was like, "Yep, you got it, Mick."
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I waited for Chris Lato's response before I was like, "Okay, all right, let's talk about this." Because I mean, hey, man, like you guys know what you're talking about, and
Sure.
then you add the F-16 pilot on top of that, who's like, okay, this aspect of it he's got right. So
Yeah,
and that's okay, guys. Like, that's not heresy. It's not, it's not the end of the world. There's still, first of all, 2 other videos. I think there's other videos that I can't wait for Mick to get his hands on when eventually they do surface. But I think it's a good. Now we kind of we got more clarity on this footage, and I think that's valuable.
Yeah, not everyone agrees though. There's still like a number of dissenters who are trying really, really hard to try to prove that it is not a rotating glare. And there's kind of 2 approaches people are taking. One is just kind of going all out and criticizing every little bit of the theory, and saying it couldn't be a glare because Dave Falch says cameras don't make glares in infrared or whatever. And then there's people who are just saying, well, it's not very likely that it was a plane, because you would be able to see the wings, or because it was so close that they would have figured it out. But I think it might be a distant plane. Now I know Chris Lato has said that it's close, and he's done some calculations to show that it's close. But the calculations he did are kind of fairly simplistic. And it turns out that this is a very, very complicated problem. And it's a very difficult problem to actually get the data out of the video and turn that into a 3D model and find out where this object is and how far away it is. There's lots of very counterintuitive things. And it turns out that the best indicator of what's going on in the video isn't the numbers, or the numbers are pretty much they're exact. But that within like 1 or 2 degrees, there's a little bit of margin of error for what's being displayed. But you look at the video. What's in the video is this object, and then there's these clouds. These clouds are moving across the scene, and they're moving very, very smoothly across the scene. And you see that they match the angle of the jet, and they also very gradually slow down. And then towards the end of the video, there's a more abrupt slowdown. And they almost stop. They don't quite stop, but they do actually keep going. And it turns out you can actually use that information in a way that's a lot more accurate than the numbers on the screen. You're still more or less matching the numbers, but it turns out a tiny little shift in these numbers has a huge effect in what's going on. And I could show you this if I could share my screen real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I figured you'd have it ready to go.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't even download the video. I was like, I know Mick's gonna have his Riz simulator ready to rock and roll and fire up on a moment's notice.
I need to open my system preferences to allow this to go. 1 second.
No problem.
I've actually been working on.
Sorry, I was going to ask you a quick question while you were doing that. Is there is there anything else that would help you even add more clarity to this video? Say, like, what would you rather have, the longer version of this one gimbal video, or would you rather have an angle from another plane in that fleet?
Another angle is always best. Okay. And it's because you can then triangulate things, but every little thing would help. It turns out I can't actually share my screen because I didn't have the permissions set. I would have to log out and log in again. If you're okay with me doing a 20-second disappearance, I'll come right back.
Yeah, I'm sure parts of the audience will love that.
Talk about me behind my back.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, that's funny. Okay, so we'll bring it back in a second. But what do you think so far, guys?
Well, I think the naming of the file Gimbal and like asking what the context of the video is kind of spooky, the answers he's implying there, because it's like, well, then how did this video end up in the hands of somebody going for disclosure if it's not?
We were just talking about you, Mick. So give the thing that you think is spooky about it, Jane, about the file name.
Well, just so, I mean, are you suggesting, I know you're only suggesting and speculating, don't worry, guys, but that this video, that it was known to be not a UFO, and like you said, like a training video, and that it just ended up in the hands of somebody who didn't have the context of it, and that's how we're here today.
Yeah. I don't know. Lou Elizondo probably knows that. You could ask him, but of course he's not going to tell you where it came from, because it's going to be some kind of classified thing. But it's quite possible it was something that the UAP task force was studying, because it was unidentified. I haven't identified what it is. It's still unknown. So it could be some kind of weird physics flying saucer that's like zipping around in a weird path. But who knows? But I think the important thing is that once you know that it's not rotating, that opens up the possibility that it's not an amazing craft. It's something that could be something fairly mundane, like a drone or a jet plane that's far away, and then you can start looking into that.
Somebody just said in the chat, ask the pilot who filmed it. Didn't you ask him? Didn't you say that?
Well, no one knows who filmed it. Well, I mean, some people know, but it's not public.
Yeah,
Ryan Graves.
You were talking to Brian
there.
Graves, though.
Yeah, he was apparently there on that day, and he saw some recordings, and he's given like a description of what he remembers from those recordings, but he wasn't actually there, in the plane when it happened.
Okay, well, what did you want to show us here?
All right, so can you see my screen now? Or
I can. Yeah, I can pull it up right now.
Okay, all righty.
There we go.
So this is my gimbal simulator, which you've all seen before, and you know what it looks like. And
you can find it at GameStop, guys. This fourth quarter,
1999,
right before Christmas. It's available for free in the download app section of your PlayStation.
So real quick, this was just the kind of margin of error thing I was talking about. You can move around the line of sight. Yeah. And you'll see that these two lines here, one of which is the expected curve, the white one, and the other one is the actual curve if you base it on the video. If you take this angle here and you translate it to this rotation of the head, you get this curve. So you get two curves which are almost identical. And they're not just identical, it looks like it was waiting until it gets far enough away. So it gets far enough away here. Then it does a correction. Gets far enough away, does another correction, gets far enough away, does another one.
The pilot's doing the correction, or the gimbal
no,
itself?
It's automatic. It's automatic.
Okay.
It's this head here, which does a rotation as it goes.
I mean, that's the part that really
it's tracking, and then
that,
does a rotation. Tracking.
Well, that
rotation,
graph
tracking.
is what really. I was like, man, that lines up pretty nicely to what the camera is doing. I mean,
it's pretty eloquent.
Yeah, it is very, very eloquent. Is this the most intense simulator that you worked on for
No, actually, let me show you one
UAP?
that's even more intense. This is the simulator with clouds. And it's doing the motion of the jet of the clouds. Now, so this is kind of like what Chris Lato was doing. He was calculating roughly what was the trajectory of the jet. So this is the jet here, and you can see here's the jet flying. Let me stick a jet in. There's a jet flying along this trajectory, and it's looking over in this direction, tracking something. So these lines here that are going off in the distance are the lines of sight. If you just calculate it from these numbers on the screen, if you just take this, this azimuth number here, which is the same thing that's in the video, and you draw lines in that direction, and you use the bank angle of the jet to make this curve using the laws of aerodynamics that let you calculate how much it should turn at what rate. And this is something that's in the FA-18 ops manual as well. You can verify that these numbers are correct and this curve is correct. But it turns out that if you do that and then you plot all these lines, the end result is kind of whack. You get lines going in all kinds of different directions. It kind of looks nice at the start, but if you stick something here and then you track it, the clouds are going to be moving in the wrong direction. If you had something that was closer to you and was moving in this direction, the clouds would actually move the other way. So if you think it's over here and you use these numbers, then you get this weird effect where the clouds kind of change direction, which isn't what happens in the video. The video, this video down here is real nice. You skim through it and the clouds smoothly move in the same direction the whole time, and they just kind of slow down towards the end, which isn't what happens if you kind of simulate it with these numbers. But it doesn't actually take very much at all to make it be more like the video. you can change the azimuth to be a linear azimuth, which just means that instead of this number following what it is here, it just goes smoothly from the start to the end. And that just makes a pretty radical change in these lines here. You see it's vastly different. Yeah. So later I was just doing kind of a back of the envelope calculation with like 2 or 3 of these lines. Say he took like this blue one, this orange one, and the purple one, and is figuring out where they go, and then he's drawing another set of lines in between those. But it doesn't really work for a start. You can't have it in front of the clouds because the clouds have been moving in the wrong direction, and if you put it further away, you're just picking random lines out of randomness. I'm using all 1,030 lines of sight here. I'm only drawing them every second. But if you use them all, you get a much more accurate picture. So, there's another video that I recommend people watch, which is by a guy called Edward Current. He's a guy on Metabank. He did a Blender simulation that used the data from the clouds. So he used the speed of the clouds to control essentially the angle of the camera, so that what you see in the video moves the same. And from that he tried to figure out what possible trajectories there could be of the object, and he found one that was essentially straight and level, about 300 knots, about 30 miles away, which is like essentially a perfect match for a jet plane, just a jet plane flying away. It's even got the exact right angle to the camera. Not only does it have the right angle, the angle kind of narrows a bit as you move around, which has the effect of making the glare brighter, which makes it a bit bigger on screen, which is what we see in the video.
Well, so then when you guys were discussing that, like, was there ever a moment where it's like, yeah, but that doesn't, I mean, like, why are they confusing it? Why are these pilots confusing it on camera? Or rather, do you have anything to add?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of the common criticisms, right? Is that if it was a jet plane, the military would obviously know about it. But I want to ask you, Mick, about the Chile incident, right? Where there was a UAP, and it was a real unknown. The Chile military couldn't figure it out, and you went and convincingly found out that it was a plane. So I guess in that instant, how did the Chile military miss that? And how could our military miss a plane 30 miles away?
Yeah, no, it's really instructive, I think, to go back and read the story that Leslie Kean wrote. Leslie Kean broke the New York Times story, Glowing Auras of Black Money, but a year before that, she wrote a story about the Chilean case. And she was just gushing with enthusiasm about how wonderful this video was, and how highly trained pilots, I think she literally used that phrase, that common phrase that we hear all the time, who observed this thing for several minutes, and lots of people have investigated, lots of high-powered people have investigated, and they've conclusively ruled out all these different things that it could be. They ruled out it being a plane. And she was really enthusiastic about it. She thought this was the smoking gun. This was going to be the case that blew the whole UFO thing wide open. But a week later, we figured out what it was. Probably less than a week. I think it was like 4 days or something. We figured out what it was. It was actually a plane, and we proved it was a plane conclusively by downloading the GPS track of the plane. And all that had happened was the pilots of the plane, of the helicopter who were filming it, had assumed it was about 30 miles in front of them, and they assumed that while they were filming it, it stayed about 30 miles in front of them, maybe gone a bit further to 40 miles, and then it was moving out over the bay. And so because they made this assumption, and they were highly trained pilots, everyone was working on that assumption. So they checked the radar in that little area. They checked air traffic for the radio issue was based on a plane being in that area. So they ruled things out based on this misperception of the pilots, when in fact what was happening, it was a plane that was initially 20, 30 miles further north that had taken off from the airport, just a regular, boring old commuter plane. And because of the angle they were looking at it, it just looked like it was over the bay. And then it flew away, and then it left these contrails, which I recognized as contrails. But for some reason, no one thought to cross-check these things. They probably just didn't have the right skill set. They didn't have people who were experts at contrails. I happen to be an expert in contrails because that was my previous hobby, like debunking chemtrails. And maybe they didn't know how to use like Flight Radar 24. They thought, oh, we'll use the radar from the airport. But it's actually better to use things like Flight Radar 24. And the plane was on the radar. They actually got radar from the airport, and there was the plane right there on the radar. It's not like it was impossible to spot. They weren't looking here; they were looking here, and that's all that it took. And they spent 2 years investigating it.
And it took you how long to debunk it?
About 4 days. And I think like 10 minutes basically to come up with my initial hypothesis of what it was. Yeah, but then much longer to kind of investigate it, find the plane. Someone else found the plane, and initially there was 2 candidate planes, and then people contribute various things to it, and then I do a lot of the recreation of it in Google Earth, demonstrating what's going on, and those other things as well. Like people don't understand certain things, like what's coming out of the back of the plane looks like it's hot. So people say, why is this plane spewing out hot liquid? Oh well, it must be the galley drain or something, the kitchen dumping hot water. So it must be, if it's a plane, it must be a landing plane, but there were no landing planes at that time. So they make these assumptions based on not understanding things like, what does a contrail look like on a thermal camera? And then they just go in the wrong direction. And I think it happens to professionals like the Chileans. It could happen to American professionals.
Do you think the secrecy contributes to this, right? Because if it was just transparent, right, we could have been on it earlier on. You could have been on it earlier on, right? And
No, I mean, you've seen this new report that's come out, the classified version of the report. All the redactions, probably loads of that, does not need to be redacted.
Right.
The problem is that they keep things secret by default. You look at FLIR videos. The camera that's used in all of these 3 Navy videos is an FLIR camera from Raytheon. These 3 videos are the best videos that FLIR cameras have ever made, as far as we know, because we don't see any others because they're all classified. There's a couple of like really crappy low resolution ones you can't really see anything. But to get some raw video like this it's unprecedented. But the only reason it's unprecedented is that it's all classified just by default. And the stuff that's in this report is probably just stuff like, we think some of these things are consumer drones, but for some reason they classify that because they don't like. So I don't know why, but they just do. It's a default thing, and it would be better if it wasn't, but you can understand the rationale behind it, and it's unlikely to change. So, not a lot you can do about it.
It seems like if we just knew where and when this gimbal video took place, we could potentially convincingly, prove that it was a jet, right?
Yeah, possibly. However, I think it's from my perspective, if it is a jet, I think a strong contender would be another jet in the exercise. So they're doing this kind of exercise there, and they do like red and blue teams where one team is hunting the other or whatever, or trying to avoid the other, or pretend dogfights. And so you could have lots of jets up there in various positions, and maybe one of them got a bit lost or simply wasn't identified. People like say this, it's impossible that this could have happened. But is it more impossible than, say, I don't know, an alien spaceship visiting them? Right. People make mistakes. So I think we if you're going to entertain extraordinary hypotheses like aliens or even anti-gravity, you should also entertain hypotheses that seem unlikely but are fair more earthbound, like people making mistakes, right. Which I think is probably what happened here.
Well, we've only got a few minutes, and I want to read a couple of
Golly.
comments that have been thrown your way. Some great,
Sure.
some but I know you're humor, man. So you
I
take
don't
always
mind.
with a
Yeah.
grain of salt. So Gerald says, and if you can answer them quickly, so we can get you out of here. Sorry, we just lost about 20 minutes, and I also just want to get your opinion on the ODNI report.
Yeah.
But hi, Mick. Out of the most famous and significant historical cases, Roswell, Rendlesham, etc., which do you consider the easiest to debunk?
Yeah, well, none of them are really easy because they're historical,
good.
and we only have a certain amount of info. I know out of those two, I'd probably pick Roswell, but I don't really know which one. I'm not too interested in these old ones.
Okay, not a real question. Just a couple of comments. Time for Mick West hype. Let's LFG chat. And guys, Mick West is spitting directly in Lou's face. It's so out of context. Please stop starting fights. Vacillation says, why isn't there any bumps in the Go Fast then? Same plane, same crew, same system.
It looks like in Go Fast, the motor of the roll engine is continuously engaged because it's having to do a much steeper track at a different angle. So it doesn't look like it's doing the same thing, but I don't really know. It may be something to do with the angle. One's at a very shallow angle, one's at a very steep angle, but I don't know.
Okay. Dr. Venkman, I love this name. All it would take to end all the speculation and nonsense would be for the DoD or UFO government insiders to release compelling data. Both sides intentionally withhold solid data. The question is why? Why do
the government's doing it by default, and Elizondo is doing it because he doesn't want to go to jail. So.
Matthew Wright says, baby, I like Mick, but I can't take this info into account because it's way over my head.
It's a problem. Yeah. So I think, what I try to do is convince other people like Chris Lato and you guys, people who can.
Has he seen your cloud, the retort to his latest math with the clouds?
No,
I had a chance to comment on that, or?
I sent him Edward Current's version of this, which is much more accurate. This is just very early days yet with my simulation. I'm still working on it. I'm just doing all this because I'm learning 3D programming again.
I gotta
keep myself relevant.
Please remind me to look at that Edward. I'm sorry, what was
Edward
the last name?
Carrant
video.
Yeah.
Because Chris Lato's going to be here on Friday, so we can sort of maybe pick his brain as to what he thought about that response. So that'll be fun. Let's see here. Future Writer says there's a whole fleet of them. Debunk that, Mick.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know what it is. It's mysterious. It could be, I don't know, glitches on the radar. It could be some kind of electronic warfare test. It could be a bunch of drones or
lost
something.
Pilots.
It could be a bunch of seagulls. Yeah, who knows? I'm not attempting to debunk it. I'll leave that open as a mystery.
So I hope you heard the first words out of his mouth is he can't. So keep that in mind. I know you're pretty passionate there, Future Writer. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the question. Event Tide. I want to buy a UFO encounterance simulator.
You can just go to metabunk.org/gimbal. This isn't like a tool that I wrote that is just for me. It's an interactive web application that anyone can use.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So
awesome.
you can just go there and you can play with all the different settings and have fun.
We need to get Deep Prasad and his quantum machine learning trying to reverse engineer UFOs and hooked up with this tech. You can play the AI and be solving everything.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I wonder if you'd be able to I wonder what would happen. Would there be anything, I say, if we got a video that displayed one of these 3-5 observables, let's just say, the ability to turn at right angles at really high speeds, and you popped it into this simulator and it gave you a whole bunch of wild numbers, would that make you go, oh, that's weird?
Yeah, definitely. But it would make anybody. You wouldn't need my simulator to do that. If something did an unambiguous, like sharp right
Well,
turn,
yes, we would.
That would be.
Yes, we would. We would absolutely need a simulator to talk about it.
You would need the simulator because you wouldn't have enough information to say this is what it was actually doing. You're going to get a crappy little video of like a bug zipping around when someone shoots it with a laser and someone thinking that's a UFO. And you stick it in the simulator and it shows you, oh, okay, if it was like 20 feet wide, that would be doing a 200 Gs. But if it was a bug, it would be doing like 0.1 Gs. So, sure, you could use it, but if something unambiguously weird came out, you wouldn't need me. Everyone would be all over it.
Right. Muscle Hynix, as I sasat next to Mick West in a movie theater in Pasadena a while back. It was Toy Story 3 showing.
I don't think that happened. Because I haven't been to Pasadena for about 10 years.
Oh my God. I can't, for some reason, picturing Mick West sitting alone in a movie theater watching Toy Story 3.
When did Toy Story 3 come out? Maybe it tracks, Mick.
It brings me
I never saw any of the Toy Stories in the theater. I haven't been to it.
I want you to debunk.
right.
I want you to debunk the idea that toys do not come alive when we don't watch them.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll
set up a camera. I'll set up a hidden camera.
Bottled Water says, I spent $5 to say hi to my buddy Mick. Hello.
Hi, Bottled Water.
Hi, everyone. Crime Prevention. Interesting name. If you follow Mick's responses on intelligent critique on his Twitter, you quickly see how intellectually dishonest he is.
Yeah, well, some people they try to, tie me up in these semantic knots. Like say, well, why don't you submit it to peer review? Like it doesn't mean anything if it hasn't gone through peer review. Or why aren't you addressing the issue like, holistically and looking at everything? So yeah, I'm trying to be very, very straightforward here. I'm trying to say, is this thing rotating or is it not rotating? And I'm not addressing all these other issues. So, I mean, sure, people don't like that I don't address all the other issues, but I'm not. I'm just looking at this one thing.
You're concentrating on one tree in the forest.
It's so wild. Like, if you look at Mick West's Twitter, which is how I got to know you earlier on, because you were really engaged on Twitter, and I look to you as I look to the community to help debunk cases because I can't make a simulator. It's I really rely on people like you. But you'll see somebody who's a class act who gets so much accusations and so much hell on Twitter, and
it's not a problem though.
He handles it really in a way that we all should, I think, follow his example.
You can't please all of the people all of the time. And you got to know your audience, and you got to know that there's going to be an audience that vehemently disagrees with you. And if there isn't, then it probably indicates that you're not trying hard enough because
I can tell you, we're going to get people polarized. People on both sides of this conversation immensely, and it's like we're not trying to piss anybody off. We're not trying to ask. It's not like we like asking people who we consider friendly or friends. Yeah. Hard, difficult, awkward questions.
That's the thing. Hard questions.
We don't like doing that. It's especially from us. I mean, Jane's a journalist, but I'm the farthest thing from one, and I hate doing it. But I see how valuable it is. Because more clarity on discussions like this, I think, is good to help them move things forward. Because if we can tell Congress, hey, what's the deal with this? We should have gotten this 17 pages last June, and right now is what we should be getting is the black removed version of this report. It's insane that they classify these things, and it's also dangerous. It's a national security issue because I think it deters these different intelligence agencies from communicating with one another properly because all of these things are blacked out. And this department can't look at it because it's classified, or this department can't access it because this guy says they can't. It's ridiculous. But a couple quick questions. We got Alex waiting in back. Thoughts on synchronicity?
I read an article on synchronicity. You can Google it. The article is about Jeopardy and strange coincidences I noticed in Jeopardy, and I talk about synchronicity. So just Google Mick West Jeopardy, and it'll pop up.
Right on. James Doyle asks, hello, Mick. Has anyone from the Galileo Project ever reached out for your input or potential collaboration? Thank you.
No.
All right. Well, we'll talk to Mr. Avi Loeb and see if we can get you a little meeting there. Hold on one second. There was a couple other questions. I can't find them in the chat real quick, but do you think using a FLIR expert that didn't exist in a debunk hurt your credibility?
Yeah, like some guy came forward and told me he was like a technician who handled like targeting pods, not necessarily the AtFLIR ones, just targeting pods. And I interviewed him, and he seemed fairly legit at the time. But since then he's disappeared, and people have pointed out various things in his interview that don't seem quite right. So yeah, that was unfortunate. But yeah, move on.
All right. Mr. Calhoun asks, Mick's involvement in the Roswell level of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater hasn't been credibly debunked yet. Winky.
Well, that's because I was involved in it. How can you debunk it?
Oh man, that is funny. Do you think the military's desire to appear infallible contributes to the UFO mystery?
I think it's a CYA thing, isn't it? Like no one wants to be the one who mess things up, so it's just a natural inclination that people have. And if people have the option not to reveal their mess ups, then they will lean in that direction. So yes.
All right. Stefan asks, thank you, Mick, for sticking to video analysis rather than analyzing videos, analyzing people. You're more credible that way, in my opinion. So just a shout out there.
And
Stefan.
it's more tangible as well. Like I can actually, do the math with these videos, but you can't really do the math with people's intentions.
Guys, did we miss any questions there from anybody? Alec said there was a good question from James, but I think I might have missed it.
I don't see it, but I do have another question for you, Mick. You talked recently about potentially making a VR simulation for some of these experiences.
Yeah,
is that something you're seriously considering? Because
definitely,
I would love that.
Well, I think that's the next great step in not just debunking, but in scenario recreation. If you want to know what somebody experienced, you can't just do it with like a 3D recreation. You got to look through their eyes and be able to move your head around and see what they would have been seeing. We want to know what Alex Dietrich and what David Fravor actually saw, because you can't really tell. You can't get any sense of scale and distance and how they perceive things just from looking at it on screen. But if you're there in the cockpit with the virtual reality, I think it would be much more interesting and compelling and revealing about what might have happened.
Hey, I think we might have won over Future Rider. He says he's got an Oculus Quest.
All right.
So there you go. All right. Well, Mick, man, thank you so much. Thank you for your patience for the start of the show. I know that started off very weird. But we can't wait to have you back because there's so many other things I want to discuss. But yeah, we'll save it for a later date. I appreciate you again. Your wonderful humor, your ability to take any question, no matter what it is, with literally like a duck with water rolling off your back. It's true, Jane. You're absolutely right. Like whether you like him or hate him or whatever, you could definitely look at his responses and go, "Well, the guy's engaging. He's not crude. He's not rude. Sometimes it might be a little condescending."
I'm not condescending. I'm British.
You're British. Yeah,
and you're adding data.
Charm. And you're adding
you're
data.
Helping us all out.
We truly, we find the value in you and your work.
Thank you.
We truly appreciate it.
I appreciate it. And I appreciate what you're doing here, and I appreciate you asking the tough questions.
Hey, man, thank you. We appreciate that. All right, sir. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Ciao. All right, let's bring on because we've got we gotta like crunch stuff into this show. Let's bring in Alec Sears, who hasn't been here in a while either. Alec, what's up, buddy?
Hey guys, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I hear you great. I love the background. Doesn't look like you're in a shower anymore.
Yes.
And you look healthy. You look. I heard you quit your job because they weren't letting you cover UFOs enough. Is that true?
You're muted.
Now we can't hear you.
Now we can't hear you. What happened?
I don't know.
Boy, the tech issues today are for real.
Maybe it picked a different mic.
How's that? Are we doing
There
good?
you go. There you go.
All
All right,
right.
we hear you now. Yeah.
Sorry, folks. Just working out the
Brianna
kinks.
Matt is like, I miss Mick already.
Oh man.
Oh man, ouch.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Great.
2 jobs, 3 moves. I got engaged. It's been a crazy 6 months.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you guys. Thank you. It's very, very good to be
3 moves
back
in
on the
6
show.
months.
It's been pretty crazy. And yeah, I was just having no free time, like working 10 to 12-hour days, 5 days a week for like things I didn't even want to do. And I was like, you know what? I haven't done in a while. I haven't been riding on UFOs. And so I was like, hey, if I don't even have time to do that, something I care about a lot more than, this whatever work, then it's not worth it. So
Right on, man.
well,
it's good to have you here.
Back into the game.
It's good to have you here because today was an interesting day. I think there's a lot of positives about today. I think some people don't think there's many positives about today. Let's talk about it. I guess let's get your first sort of take on the 17 pages that were released from the ODNI. And it sounds to me like there's more pages. Am I off on that, or is this the full report?
I think there could be more stuff. It's honestly hard to say with these. I mean, it's all speculation, right? Even people who we consider to be like high-placed anonymous government sources got it wrong. Somebody said there was 78 pages, somebody said 27, 30, whatever. It's all ballpark. And honestly, the page number can change based on what font size you use. So it's just speculation. And that's the problem with this. I think just in general, just shows the release today just shows how incredible John Greenwald is at the Black Vault and just how indispensable his work is. I mean, the guy's a machine. The fact that he can catalog all this, keep all of it straight, filing these requests, dealing with the deep and deeply entrenched government bureaucracy, it's just impressive, and he deserves way more credit than we give him, and we give him a ton already.
Man, what I love about him the most is that even the people that loathe him always will read his work, always, because they know. Like
good. Nobody does it
too
better.
good. Nobody can ignore that information. And he posted a meme the other day of a gravestone that says, "Yes, I want the answer to the request I had." Some FOIA related thing. It was so funny. I'm like, this guy. You're right. He's a machine. He's I love the
FOIA requests in his will.
Right.
Yeah.
Like he's a light. He's a torch in a very dark tunnel. So
if Lou Elizondo or Chris Mellon ever gets a public, congressional hearing, I want John to be sitting there and like the row next to him with a binder, just like this big, just stacked full of whatever information he can to call out, like, hey, Lou, that's not right. Like, call him out on this, that kind of thing. Whenever somebody's bringing some BS to the table.
From your lips to God's ears. So what do you think? What did you think of the 17 pages? What was your first assessment of it? I'm curious.
I mean, my first assessment was, hey, that's a lot of redactions. Which not great, but what's redacted is a little bit telling, along with what isn't redacted. Trying to do like a page-to-page comparison from what we got last summer to what we got today brings a lot of interesting things to light. I think the first top of the list one that I saw was, for some reason, singular words out of the executive summary were redacted, which is very strange to me because in the executive summary that we have from last summer, it's the full executive summary. There's nothing redacted, and the sentence structure is very similar. And the word that is redacted in today's would be reports or reporting or reported, something along that lines. So it's kind of strange to me that if it's a simple word like that, why is it redacted unless they're using a different word for saying some kind of reports? The only thing that comes immediately to mind could be citing, which, again, I'm not sure why they would want something like that redacted. It's a little bit more common vernacular for us in the UFO disclosure movement to say citing when we have some kind of, sighting or video or something of that nature. So I found that
briefing
maybe.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Again, this is supposed to be delivered to Congress as a brief, so I don't know why you would redact the word breathing. That's why it stood out to me. It's very, very strange. It's so odd that just a singular word out of a sentence like that.
Maybe they just black out extra stuff randomly just to throw us off.
And they very may well do that. They've done that with a couple of like Navy SEAL books, like Navy SEALs who write a fictional book but rely on their real experience. They'll just redact like one word about a training exercise that they took place during SEAL training. So government censors do things like that. Very weird, and I'm sure it drives poor John just up a wall when they do that. But that did stand out to me just right off the bat as like, hey, that's kind of strange.
Yeah, I mean, like as a result, the UAPTF concentrated its review on blackout, describing incidents that occurred between 2004 and 2021. Why does that need to be blacked out?
Right.
Like
you would assume it's just reports.
It's just reports. But here's the thing. I also just want to just really quickly realize, like, for people to just stop and step back and appreciate, this is 17 pages. This is 10 more pages longer than the original report we got in June. This is almost like an early Christmas present of sorts. This is like we get part of the report before we get the official one in October. This is awesome. For me, I love it. But I think this also proves Lou Elizondo's point and Christopher Mellon's points of the overclassification of these files is hindering the ability of people to share this information and make sure it gets to the proper channels. So then that way they could come to either a scientific determination, a militaristic determination. And the thing I also loved about this report is that it very much has those buckets again. And there is that other bucket, and that other things have gone in that bucket that they cannot figure out. They need different instruments. They need more data. It's there, but they can't grasp it because they just don't have enough data on it yet.
They haven't hired Mick West.
They haven't hired Mick West. Clearly. But yeah, I mean, what did you think of that sort of aspect? Am I wrong when I say that? No,
I don't think you're wrong at all.
I mean, I would say that it kind of shows that classification might have been okay here, because I expected maybe the classified report to be completely different than the public report, but this is showing us that it's not really. It's essentially the same thing. There's a lot more words that we can't see in the classified one, but there's no big things ostensibly that they're hiding from us, except of course of these big blocks of
yeah.
I mean, I think
well,
that's,
but the conclusions are the same. There's no
did talk about a video. Alec, did you read that part in John Greenwald's article? He said a video was coming, or so maybe there is more to this report.
I must have missed that part. Yeah. I jumped from his article straight to the document.
Make sure I'm not misquoting him. I'll bring that up.
I think that he's referencing that he's going to do his own video kind of analysis.
Oh my gosh,
that makes
a lot more sense.
There are mentions of images and videos that we did not learn about in the unclassified report, though. They say that the GeoInt organization has photos and videos. So I don't know, Alex, do you have any idea what those might be? My presumption is that those would be satellite imagery, or would you know more about that?
I'm not any kind of military expert. I typically defer to Jazz Shaw for stuff like that, but generally that would be geospatial intelligence would be satellite for the most part, or other high altitude radar systems or things of that nature. The one thing, just going back to your point about this report being overclassified, is when we got the original report in the summer, I do think a couple of people said, like, hey, the classified version of this is very likely to be close to the same thing, except it's going to be full of a bunch of military terminology about weapon systems and things of that nature. That's what the bulk of this really is they're classifying classified names, code names for weapon systems or for military systems, or for, in one case, they redact the name of an entire agency, an entire 3-letter agency in this report that we got today, which is interesting all in of itself. But I think the biggest redaction and the biggest omission from this report, and I saw a couple of folks on Twitter today memeing it, is the redaction of the common shapes and the less common or irregular shapes section on page 13.
Oh yes, yeah, right here, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you why is that the thing that's sticking out for people?
I think that this is big because, and the fact that they redacted it is big because they have enough data to say what is common and what is not. Right. So, and the common section is much larger. So if we guesstimate here the size of a government, rendering or pick art kind of little picture here, let's say maybe 4 to a row, maybe 5 to a row, and then 4 deep. So that's, that's 20 to 25 potentially images of common craft that people are seeing, or, maybe not craft, but things in the sky that pilots are encountering or that we have some kind of information on. And then maybe, 4 to 5 to 10, somewhere in that range of irregular. So there is enough data to say, hey, this is what things look like most of the time. This is what things look some of the time. But also, we're not going to show that to the public because that could be potentially damaging to national security. I think that is a much bigger deal than a lot of folks were kind of making it out. And I saw a couple of memes on Twitter where it's like, oh, like these crazy shapes in the sky, and it's just clouds with like black boxes everywhere. Funny meme, but like that's huge that the government is comfortable enough to Congress to say, hey, this is what these things look like most of the time. Like, we know enough about them. They're like, hey, this is what they look like. This is what people are describing. We have enough people saying close enough to what these shapes are to say, hey, we are ready to make a determination that this is common.
Yeah.
As uncommon as these sightings are, these are the common ones. And then also, here are the less common ones.
Yeah. Well, I also wanted to point out to folks that I felt like a big sort of focus of this classified report was national security and assessing the threat levels of these UAP. That is and then number 2 was flight safety. Like, those are the 2 things that I saw a lot of in these 17 pages. But yeah, I mean, like, when it comes to the shapes, but also some of these definitions of things, like the Ranger Fowler defined by the United States Navy aviators based on observations of UAP interrupting pre-planned training or military activity in military operating areas or restricted airspace. And then I love how the very last one here is just the UAP report just includes all of these things that they put on here. I was like, man, the military is it's just so funny how they really, I don't want to say cross every T and dot every I, but it's just, I don't even know what's the right word to explain this type of over explanation of.
I think that John Greenwald could have been a lawyer, basically, like in another life. Yeah, I think it like takes that kind of brain to consume all of these. Yeah.
Well, with documents from the military and just also government documents in general, the procedure is to just over-explain, to vomit information as much as you can, because you're working under the assumption that whoever's going to be reading the report has never heard of the subject ever before at all, and doesn't know any of the lingo, doesn't know what you're talking about. Maybe they're up on a couple of acronyms, and this is true because members of Congress who are very busy, they have a lot of things that they need to know, that they need to learn about, that they're dealing with their constituency in their state and in Congress and elsewhere, nationally, internationally. So briefings, especially to Congress, they really walk them through it. Like hand holding. It's kind of funny.
It really is.
Like, like government bureaucrats, like they're kind of done. They got to be handheld through this, but it's by design. You just have to work under the assumption that nobody understands what you're talking about.
I'm curious what your thoughts. Of course, this is only speculation, but clearly, I think there's enough in these redacted sections of this classified report. And again, maybe we don't know yet, but it felt like John is kind of like saying, "Hey, there might be more here," but just these blacked out sections of this, even when you were talking just about the shapes and some of these reports, like I would love to see what's in these reports. These have really sort of fascinated me. But do you think that these senators and congressmen, what they're getting briefed on, and the reason why they're discussing this publicly in open forums, and it seems like, according to Carson and Avril Haines and Tim Burchett and a few other senators, Gallego and Gillibrand, all of them have said in one way or the other that the extraterrestrial hypothesis is on the table. It's on the table, and it's on the table because of what they're getting briefed on in here. There is an aspect of drones. There is an aspect of national security. There is an aspect of flight safety, but there's also an aspect of a diamond in the rough, a there. And so I'm curious to know, like, what do you think would propel, because you were very close in these circles, what do you think would propel a senator to speak like that about this topic?
That's a good question. I think part of it is just a general want to not rule anything out based on data, but also from a certain extent, there's a little bit of mysticism around this issue, cultured by 100 years of Hollywood and pop culture and like everything that's happened the last 100 years. We have Roswell, we have Area 51. There's a certain amount of mysticism surrounding this issue that does push people to lean towards the extraterrestrial hypothesis. And this is something that, you guys talk about on your show all the time, is like the different theories, and, we're not going to say what it is for sure, that kind of thing. I feel like in general, that's what Congress is doing. They're not going to say what it is specifically. They're going to leave it open for interpretation. And then, on a certain level, Congress is addicted to the limelight, to the TV. They're kind of vain like that. And so saying like, oh, it could be extraterrestrial, we're not here to rule that out. That's just one way to kind of like signal to their constituencies, signal to the people like, oh, like there's your like your one-liner for the papers. Yeah. There's your soundbite, that kind of thing. It gets people a little bit excited, gets people interested. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that usually the reaction to the social media declarations, especially on Twitter, are far more shared, far more liked, far more engaging than anything else they post about. Anything else they post about. When they talk, when politicians talk about UFOs, that's the thing that gets shared 100 hands down the most out of anything. And that's not just UFO. I feel like that's outside of UFO Twitter. Like those are normal people also tweeting those things, being like, "Yo, did you hear what Gillibrand said this weekend or whatever?" So yeah, man. I tend to think it's kind of impressive that the hypothesis is even being discussed in these rooms, and it sounds like it is.
I definitely think it is. I haven't been in any of the rooms.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'd be fun. That'd be a great time.
Yeah.
Just to be a fly on the wall in some of these briefings. I can guess and wonder about some of the questions, especially some of our older senators may be asking. But I think that hopefully the questions are good. At the very least, I hope that they're having enough private hearings that when there is a public hearing, they have been coached enough by those delivering the private hearings that they know the correct questions to ask. That's all we can really hope for when it comes to a public hearing, that we don't get very embarrassing questions like, well, young man, have you ever seen the green aliens that they have down there in the basement of Area 51 from some congressman?
Right.
Nobody really wants that. That kind of throws the whole very serious nature of a congressional hearing regarding UAP kind of under the bus a little bit. That'd be a great way to discredit the whole thing. That's not what we want here.
Elizondo's said a few times publicly, and public hearings are coming. I think we got a 50-50 shot they happen this year. What do you think?
I don't know about this year. That'd be incredible this year. It's midterms, and I don't know if folks are going to be wanting to jump into a UFO hearing, UAP hearing during midterms. All those congressmen got to run for office again. So
could be It could work though as a distraction, though.
What about the next big election? Like with Like, because remember, if people like roll back the hands of time, before, who became president, 2 presidents back, and there was Hillary Clinton, and she was partially campaigning on UFOs, and so
encouraged by John Podesta.
Maybe the next election, like maybe it'll be something to talk about, like
I definitely think in a 2024 presidential race that it could be a little bit bigger of a topic. I mean, of course, there was Podesta and Hillary talking about it a little bit, and then during the Trump presidency, he did get asked the question a couple of times in a few different interviews, like, "Hey, what do you know?" And on those questions, he was uncharacteristically dismissive, which I thought was interesting because the guy could ramble for minutes and hours about any topic he wanted to, but on that question, he was like, "I don't know, like move on," which is a little bit strange to me. But I do think if we're getting hearings and we freaking better, I think they'll happen in an off year, or they'll happen after the election if a budget gets kind of worked out. So if we get a hearing, it'll be this year. It'll be like late November,
after midterms,
after the dust is settled.
Well, also we get the first public report from this new office October 31st,
and that can definitely drive it. October 31st, midterms happen, hearing scheduled. I can definitely see that. I would give that 50-50 odds.
And that's this year. That's this year.
It is this year. Yeah,
well, that's what I'm saying, baby. And I mean, look, I just go. Look, I know the people think we don't stand with Lou here, and that's the farthest thing from the truth. I think a lot of things that he said, timetable wise, have come to fruition. He keeps mentioning this idea of public hearing, and if it happens this year, man, like, how many times are we going to ignore him calling his shot like Babe Ruth, at the plate, pointing to the stands, and like, all right, that's where I'm putting, baby, and then crack, he puts it there, and then we all sit back and we go, yeah, but your alternate account, what's up with that? Like, I mean, no offense, rather. I'm not trying to.
I mean, we still haven't had any videos or any actual proof.
Yeah, I just say something. I don't stand with any of the UFO voices or researchers, and I never have, and I don't plan to. And I don't know if I'll ever tweet an I stand with, and I just want to make that clear. And that's been something I think I've been very consistent with from the very beginning of starting my channel, and I do that intentionally, and that's also kind of like insurance for me. If I'm not standing with you, UFO voice, it's also not personal. I'm trying to be objective and keep focused on the data and the blacked out, trying to guess what the blacked out portions are in this report.
I guess what I mean is that we're not sitting here vociferously hating on Lou.
100%.
And we're appreciative of what he did.
And we're appreciative of what he's done. And I mean, what I'm about to show you in this last half hour, you'll see is what vociferal hatred of somebody sounds like. Well, trust me, we'll get to that here in a minute. Because if you thought what Rather said was disrespectful or inflammatory, it's nothing compared to what Mr. Fessler said.
Yeah, and I don't stand against either. Like, just to be clear, it's not like a for or against. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's essentially what we're saying. So, Alec, it was great to see your face.
Guys, it's great to see all of you.
This is going to be an exciting end of the year, I think.
Yeah, keep coming on.
I really hope so. I really do. I am certainly looking forward to seeing what happens. The content that we got today was almost as monumentous as the report we got last year.
I agree.
Would love to see the unredacted version. Fight for the unredacted version. Give John Greenwald your support. I know I will. What an absolute stellar champion of a guy, and you all as well. You guys are just the best. You're on a tight ship. Thank you for having me back on after such a long break,
dude.
I really appreciate it.
I was shooting a free throw in the dark today when I was like, "Yeah, maybe you want to stop by for a half hour." He's like, "Actually, I can do that." And I'm like, "Hell yes!" This feels like old school UCR right now, where we're covering the news. We're having all sorts of different things happening on the show in a 2-hour time frame. And this is going to be the format this is what the show's going to look like when we come back mid-April. So, dude, thank you for sort of helping us test run this. And also, I can't wait to see more of you in the future.
Yeah, definitely hoping to be around more. It's super great to see all of you. I hope you're all doing well, doing good. You're fighting the good fight. Keep it rolling. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Just best show out there. Best channel on YouTube.
Best podcast
Appreciate
on
it,
the
Alex.
planet.
Easily.
We appreciate it, man. Hey, listen, I haven't had time to include your link in the description below, but please tell everyone where they can find Alec Sears online and interact with him.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I'm getting back into the game a little bit, folks. You can follow me on Twitter at Alec_Sears. Hope you'll forgive me for some of my non-UFO content.
He likes guns, just FYI. All right, mister. We'll see you soon.
Bye, y'all. Take care.
Bye, Alec.
Ciao. All right. There he was, Mr. Alec Sears. Always a gentleman and a scholar. And it's a great resource to have him anytime something like this happens today. Because I mean, it's big news. It's a big deal. And I can't wait to talk to Chris Lato about it, what he thinks about the report as well. I mean, this is going to be something I'm assuming we're going to be talking about here for at least a week, because I think there's a lot of, I'm sure people will have different takes. Who knows what other things John Greenwald.
In the original report, right? So yeah, we should spend at least as much time as we did on the initial one. So. Any Wheel of Fortune? Anybody who's really good at Wheel of Fortune want to take a good look at it for us?
I'll buy an E.
You'll buy an E. All right.
Yeah, exactly. I'll like to buy
I love
a vowel, please.
Well, okay, so we got about a half hour left, and originally I was going to spend longer on this, but I'm like, nah, it doesn't need much longer than what we're going to spend on it. I think the point will be made pretty clear pretty quickly. I got to tell you though, especially for the folks in podcast world, if you're listening to this at work or in front of your kids, I'm not kidding when I tell you this. This is not safe for work. Not safe for work. You do not want to be playing this at your desk and your boss listen to this, or your kids hear part of this. It's pretty bad. So let's get into it. So last night, Thomas, this is going to be a review of a review, and I'm going to do my absolute best to not throw any personal insults in this. But I mean, we got insulted heavily throughout the show last night in Thomas Fessler's breakdown of our clip from our show. I'm pretty convinced he didn't watch the entire show, because we're not going to spend a lot of time on his review. We're going to get to the things he's said about Lou Elizondo, the people he's interacted with, and sort of who he is. And I also might, I have to say this. This might seem petty. This might seem like I'm like punching down a little bit, but I tell you, like, we have been absolutely roasted by all sides this weekend. And this person in particular has no right whatsoever to be slinging any sort of criticisms on anyone, especially with the things he said. And it just bothered me. It just really bothered me, because I'm the person who gave him Lou Elizondo's email. And I tell you right now, hands down, worst decision I've ever made since I've started this channel was giving that guy Lou Elizondo's email. Worst decision I've ever made, and I wish I could take it back. So let's get into it. So he does a review of our clip. He doesn't say anything original. All of his counterpoints that he gives are exactly the counterpoints that I said as we were debating. Accuses me of just letting you rant. And what he doesn't realize is that it was a debate. In a debate,
it was a split show,
It was a split show. It was me and Miller versus you and Rather, and it was cordial. It was respectful. There was no name calling. And we all of us put our viewpoints on the table, and we're allowed to speak, allowed to have a soapbox and give our opinions, because that's the experiment called democracy. We're literally exercising as we do it. And we are really trying hard to not build any echo chambers here. And I think that show on Monday was a beautiful example of how we do that. And to take that show and either take a clip out of it and put it on Twitter and sort of prop it up as, a heroic moment in this discussion. I didn't like that very much. But it's Twitter, it's the internet. We knew that was going to happen. And I was okay with it. I was ready for the blowback for it. And so, yeah, there was, we did everything in our power to express both sides as evenly as we could and have a conversation and not a rabid mob that just wants to hear one thing. So that said, on his review of our review, there was so many things that I could have pulled, but I only pulled about, let me see. Let's bring it up. I think it's about 8 minutes. It's almost 9 minutes worth of stuff that this guy said. So just right off the bat, he fat shames me. Straight up fat shame, makes a fat joke right in the beginning of the show. Let's listen.
It's general information that anyone, especially like you guys over at the Unlimited Buffet Redux.
And it's not even a good joke at that. And here's the thing about,
I mean, I like buffets.
Who doesn't like a good buffet? But regardless of that, here's how I know how to spot bully. They go right for the thing that they think is going to hurt you the most. They stab you there and they twist it. And usually, especially with me, I mean, I've known I'm fat since I was in 5th grade. I know this. And if you think I haven't heard this or things similar to this, it just goes to show how low your intelligence is, number one, and how bad you are at telling jokes. I'm sorry.
Or if you think it adds to your point.
Stay away from it. And if you think it adds to your point, it doesn't. It just shows, I'm okay with making fun of people for looking different. That's the point that he just made there. So let's see what else Mr. Fessler has to say, shall we?
Didn't know about that. Yes, and I'll admit it's a channel that I looked at how quickly that channel rose up in the area. The amount of different people who got involved, everything that went on. I always had to ask the question, what's really behind that? How did that happen? Is there something bigger at play that we don't understand? And that's a question that I've had some people, Matthew Riot, over one of the
by the way, he's pitching this idea. He can't understand why this show's grown so quickly. Let me let you in on a little secret. It's called hard work and having talent. Those are the two things that made this show grow. I don't know if I can help you with that. There's no other conspiracy theory outside of that. Of course, I helped organize the first ever grassroots UAP event that included everybody, and I got Luis. That event absolutely sent my channel to a stratosphere, and I will forever be in debt to everyone who helped make that a success, including especially Lou Elizondo, because hey, he's the one who helped us sort of think of it and execute it. So that's why our channel is growing quickly. But let's see what his theory is.
The Lou groupies, or the Lewis groupies over at UCR has been, challenging me on saying, I've said that about him. Yes, I'll say it and I'll say it again. It just deserves a great big question mark because we don't know. And sometimes questions deserve to be asked. Like, is the Chinese buffet really that good?
All right. So there's fat joke number 2. Look, on my channel, we have never, ever in the 2 years that this channel's existed, have ever made fun of anyone like that. We've never pointed out their imperfections on that level. Never once. Have we asked hard questions? Yes. Have we asked questions that sometimes have our bias in the question as we ask them? Absolutely. We've admitted to that. We've done that. And it's definitely not our intention. And we've apologized for that. But stuff like this, we've never done. We'll never do. And it'll never be accepted on this channel. If you like stuff like this, I recommend go check out Disclosure Tonight. Go subscribe to their channel. we don't need you here. Like, just straight up. If you want an echo chamber, and by the way, his entire chat room, all of them are mods. Every single person in his chat is a mod. So everybody, there's no room for dissent in Thomas Fessler's channel. Not zero. But let us continue. So fat joke number 2, fat shaming number 2. Very classic. But let's see what else we got, because I can assure you it gets worse.
Yeah, she's serious. She's called out some of the young girls in ufology on Twitter and YouTube for some of their less than becoming scantily uddy behavior.
And he doesn't say slutty. He doesn't say slutty behavior. This is Linda Thompson apparently got angry at some girls who were on a live stream with a quote unquote their tits out. And that prompted Linda to shame them. It's like, it's not up to you to tell a woman how to do anything, let alone things with her body. If she wants to have a stream and her shirt is cut lower and there's more cleavage, that's her choice. That's her choice. She gets to do that. Just because you're a woman doesn't mean that you're right on your take of shaming.
And if I'm remembering, I don't know what that was, but I remember that was really, I think, I may be thinking of a different incident, but if I remember the girls that did that, they're known for having a sense of humor and being really entertaining about this subject. And I believe there was a guy on the stream too. It wasn't like... It was, it was equal, it was all fair. But I may be thinking of a different incident, but just to throw that out there, we can have different brands. Like, I mean, look at look at all the different podcasts and ways that people consume information, and there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with it. And I'm bummed because this video is coming through a little choppy. And I've spent all this time editing it. I'm really bummed that it's coming through this choppy. I'm going to try and close some things.
Telling you, it's the...
but at least we can hear them. And the other thing is, sorry, Bradley, were you going to say something?
No, it says a lot more about the people who are complaining about it than the people who might have done it, right?
Right. I mean, I don't understand. Like,
as if there's anything.
Well, what's really funny about this is that he's afraid to say slut here. He's afraid to call them sluts here, but he wasn't afraid to call them sluts in past streams that he's done, which he's conveniently deleted. And I'll also prove that he's deleted a lot of these videos. But he was not able to delete one of them that I found. That was on another channel with Goof on, but we'll get to that in a second.
But I mean, everybody loves buffets and everybody loves boobs, so we don't need to be arguing.
I mean, I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, it's very strange for sure.
I stand with her. If we want to have professionalism, Christina Gomez sets a high bar. These girls are doing the limbo.
So Christina Gomez sets the high bar, but the other girls are doing the limbo.
And she's gotten the same criticisms from other people.
Yeah. And it's just like, I can't even tell you why I find that comment in particular very, very interesting. But I have a feeling, anyway, I'm not going to go there, but it's funny that he whipped out Christina Gomez's name, that name in particular. But yeah, let's see what else he's got to say about women and other things.
A screenshot I've shared around with some different people.
Oh, this is great. This is his flow chart. This is his flow chart of nothing.
He did this 6 months ago.
He did this 6 months. He did this 6 months ago, and this is a flow chart of my show and how it became so popular. And he was trying to figure out why. Just listen. It's hilarious.
That UCR and the network of people that they have. Granted, I do have some people in there that don't belong, like Vinny and Kurt, but they'll bring someone into UCR, and then the people they bring in get passed into used to be Singularity Mike next, and then the people who would come from the shows would get passed from person to person to person to person, like a a football team passing a new cheerleader around.
Oh,
What the?
wow. What? I played football. I've
What high
never
school
been
did you
on a
go
football
to?
team that passes cheerleaders from player to player to player. What is that?
That's a
a
movie
very-
you watched.
very
with
bizarre
Henry last
analogy.
week.
But hey, rather your comment that you felt bullied by Lou Elizondo completely inappropriate. But this is okay. This is okay, right? Talking like this is okay. But sharing that you felt bullied by somebody is not, even though that's completely on you how you feel about being bullied, right? That's
At
a
least on disclosure
subjective,
tonight.
at least on disclosure tonight. All right. Well, let's see what other little words of nuggets Mr. Thomas Fessler has to say. And by the way, he also is the king of saying nothing. He's very good at saying everything and nothing at the same time. So that way it's like he could cover his tracks later down the road. It's like, well, it's not what I meant. It's blah, 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 blah. It's, man, I can see right through it. Right through it. It's not good. So let's see what else we got.
And I just had to wonder, what the hell's going on? How did this happen so quick? What's the network? And if you can see at the center, we've got Lou with UCR, and then Rather be squidding off to the side, Mike Singularity, Artemis Prime, where she's gone now with the Goofanites. And it just kind of, there's this big circle of things. And granted, it's changed in the last 6 months since I've put this together. But yes, sometimes we have to look at stuff and we have to call things into question and say, what's really going on here?
What's really going on?
What do you think is going on here?
What is really going on here, Thomas? Tell us. Of course, he's not going to
Wait,
tell
is
us.
he accusing us of being part of an evil
Yes.
psyop?
He's accusing. I don't know what the accusation is.
Finally?
Here.
Am I
guess
finally getting accused? I've been waiting for it.
It's something along the lines of, why did this channel grow so fast? It must be part of the government. Must be, right? No, Thomas, like, my name is, and here's another thing. Here's a critique. Like, and rather, we'll debate this maybe some other day, but honestly, if Lou Elizondo had ended with that, the answer to that question being, well, dude, your name's Rather be Squidding. Like, you're hiding your personality, right? Like, it's kind of hypocritical. It's the best argument he had. If he had ended it there, it would have been very difficult to sort of come back to that, because personally, I think that's a very good argument. But here's the issue with that argument. I'm not a stranger. My name is very well known. It's Luis Victor Jimenez. Go look up my IMDb. I'm a very real person. I live in Los Angeles, California. I've been very damn open with who I am. And guess what? I wanted the answer to that question as well. So does that mean now that the question is qualifiable because I'm now asking it? Because I don't have a hidden identity?
I'll just say too, because he raised his points a couple times. There's a big difference between an anonymous account and a sock puppet, and a sock puppet where you tell all your supporters who you are. Those are 3 different classes of things.
Right. Well, we're not going to get into the 3 different classes. The point is that, I'm not a sock puppet. I don't have a sock puppet account. I'm not hiding my identity with a Rather be Squiddy type name. I'm a real person, and so is Jane. Jane is putting her real name out here, and guess what? So is Daniel Miller. So 3 out of the 4 people on that panel who wanted to answer that question. Actually, Miller wasn't there. I'm thinking of Michael. It's me, Michael. So 2 out of the 3 wanted the answer to the question as well. And that doesn't make the question any more valid or any less valid. So I just wanted to get that out of the way as well. But let us continue. Let's see what else Mr. Fessler has to say.
Shade. That's real research.
Oh, by the way, this flow chart is the real research. I got to get back to this flow chart, man. God, I wish this thing was not so choppy. Hold on a second.
What's really going on here? This isn't me going and just trying to throw things out there of shade. That's real research.
I got a picture of the flow chart right where this noise comes in. There it is. Okay, cool. That's his flow chart, you guys. So at the top here, we've got Ryan Sprague, Christina Gomez, Max Moxkovich, Sean Rash, who hates us, Vinny from Disclosure Team, Artemis Prime is in here, Kurt Jai Mungle, who's never been on the show. He was only on Mike's channel. He's never been on my show. Is in there. Rather be squinting. There you are in a green. What does the green box mean, by the way? Does
I know,
mean
I'm
you're
all
closer?
jealous that I'm
I don't
not green.
know. Singularity Labs in a green. Singularity, Artemis Prime, Rather, and Jazz made green boxes, and everybody else is in white. UFO Jane. So I don't know what the fuck this flow chart means. It's the. And he's like, this is research. This is the best research you put together. Is this flow chart? And then you don't even tell us what it means. Really good, man. Solid work. You're flying high, my dude. Flying real high. All right, let's see what else we got.
Evil triumphs when good people do nothing, and that's just not our style.
Evil triumphs when good people do nothing. That's not our style. We're about to get into the goof on portion of this conversation. And again, put your kids away because this is some pretty nasty stuff. Here we go.
Gotten toxic treatment from Luis Jimenez. He called me out for trying to say I was running tag team with Goof on against Lou, spreading lies against Lou. That is a freaking lie. That is a freaking lie.
That is a freaking lie.
There may have been some videos I showed where it's calling out some drunk girls running around in negligee, being a little disgraceful to the movement. They may have been called bitch.
Listen to this right here. This to me is one of the most damning things he said, and it is hands down one of the creepiest, grossest thing he said in either show. But he actually tops this. He tops this one. Let's take a listen.
Negligee, being a little disgraceful to the movement. They may have been called bitches in the video, and I'm not sure if I said it, but if I did, well, it was just kind of a, hey, bitches, how's it going kind of a thing. Nothing like, well, my female dog, who's right over there, who's truly a bitch. Oh, she used to go out sometimes, and I would yell, Cupcake, get in here. Stop being a bitch. You gotta have fun with it, you know?
You just gotta have fun with misogyny, you know.
Yeah, sexism is a lot of fun.
You just gotta have you just gotta have some fun with misogyny, guys, every once in a while. Just put the top down and let's get misogynistic and listen to the good old tunes of Kid Rock. Like, what the hell are you talking about, dude? Like, you don't remember if you called them bitches, and if you did call them bitches, it was, hey, bitches, get over here. In what context does that work for you bashing people? And he's going to say, I know he's probably thinking in his brain right now if he's watching, oh, I never said that. I never called women bitches. Well, let me show you a picture from his producer, the producer of his show in a second.
Evil triumphs when good people do nothing, and that's just not our style.
Just not their style. Misogyny is just not their style.
Call them a threat because what?
Now, Chad. Now, okay, so I put in. Sorry again I'm so bummed that this video is stalling here.
Do nothing, and that's just not our style.
There's going to be this is YouTube messages that I got from the producer of Disclosure Tonight. Let me tell you something right now. If a producer of mine ever sent a message like this to anyone, I'd fire their ass right on the spot. Right on the spot. So this was earlier today. From Ack, also known as Bill. Don't you have a buffet to go to, Luis? Go plan your next big super chat your next big super chat home. Table 5 needs more water. Run to it, my boy. So now we've got racism too. So not only fat shaming, but a little undercurrent of racism. Calling me boy, not knowing that I'm Cuban, which means I have a lot of you ever heard of Afro-Cubans? African-American blood? if I didn't blow dry my hair, I would have that beautiful Afro Cuban kink, baby. And so I've never really been considered or had that slang thrown my way. So to sit here and claim, well, I'm going to say to sit here and claim that this offends me in that way would be disingenuous, but calling somebody boy has a connotation to it. Am I wrong on that?
It's so well, and it's like, which is it? Are you some kind of plant, and how are you so successful in making all this money? Or are you somebody who's working, who said that you waited tables and you're working hard and struggling to make this channel work, like, and he's spitting on that. It's like, what is it? Which one is this?
Which one is? But also just like, you guys have super chats too. I saw them last night.
People should super chat all the YouTubers and researchers that you're fans of. It's a really wonderful thing, I think, that YouTube offers.
I mean,
I'm glad that the community has it.
But hey, guess what? There's more. There's more from producer Bill. Drama from the tabloid of UFO world, the unidentified buffet review. Another fat joke. Piss off, Luis. Also, this isn't your first time recently that Squidward has messed up and insulted guests, and you know it. Don't claim to be all high and mighty. You only had Artemis there so you could all perv and smile lovingly at her while she was giggling with her boobs out on the show. Your hypocrisy is as big as your waist. This is the guy you guys are the ones supporting this guy, and this is the guy calling people bullies, and I promise you this gets worse. This gets worse. Okay, so check yourself before you call Rather or this show or anybody remotely connected to us bullies that actually help us produce this show. Go for it. Go for it. But here we go. Last comment from Mr. Ack. And this one's a real non sequitur, let me tell you. When you went from fat shaming, you want something to cry about? Come to me, lard ass. That sounds like a physical threat. So we've got racism, fat shaming, misogyny, threat of violence. Check. Now, let's see here. Also, this is where the non sequitur happened. I don't even know. Again, he goes back to Artemis. Also, Artemis used her boobs to promote herself. So did Kelly. If that's not a slut, I don't know what is. It surely wasn't their brains they were promoting. Take a seat if you can find one that won't collapse and chill the F out. Classy, man. Class. Pure class. This is why I wanted to talk about this, because I wanted to call this bullshit out. This is bullshit. This is bullying. This is demeaning. This is inflammatory. This is divisive. This is dangerous.
And this is not just if you don't have a YouTube channel, you don't matter and your comment doesn't matter. It absolutely matters. And I hope that you're all being polite. But this is somebody also that has a YouTube channel and is interviewing people. And I guess he's had an interview with Lil Zondo, it sounds like. So this is an influential person, right? That wants you to follow them and give them super chat. So it's a different level of negativity.
Yeah. And I would also, if you're going to go on Thomas Fessler's channel, or if you know somebody that's going on soon, please do me a favor, share this part of the video. And I'm also going to post this video that I made because I worked too hard. I edited too hard for this to be coming through so scrambly right now. But I'll also be posting this video as well. So you guys can watch it in its full glory. But here we go.
Yeah. We're trying to call them a threat. Because what? They're imposing.
This is him on GoofOn. Now, if anybody knows who GoofOn is, this is probably one of the most vile people in the community. I mean, this is he's asked for fights. In the name of charity, which is hilarious. He curses out every time the mention of Lou Elizondo's name is anywhere near him. He goes into a pure tirade. This guy calls women bitches. He's cool with misogyny as well, and I'll prove that here in a second. And man, I cannot wait to get to this clip. So this is him on Goofon's channel, who he in yesterday's stream said I didn't high five Goofon. I never badmouth Lou Elizondo. That's a lie. That's a lie. Well, let's listen what you have to say about Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, and Jeremy Corbell in this clip.
On us being the threat at this point. So you just can't go ahead and say, like Elizondo and Christopher Mellon and Jeremy Corbell. It's just like you got this trifecta people saying they're a threat, they're a national security threat, they're a threat. And it's just like, come on, guys, you're just trying to do this to freaking stoke up the military machine because we're afraid that our politicians' jobs in Washington, their days might be numbered.
I don't even know what that means. But also keep in mind, this was filmed August 3rd of last year. We'd already gotten the ODNI report. We've already gotten a whole bunch of things that happened where if he was so pro Lou, he should have been talking about that in his shows. And here's another thing. Here's how I know for 100% fact that this guy is erasing content, because he doesn't want people to see it, because he has been misogynistic. He has been a little questionable, not a little, absolutely questionable in his behavior. It's disgusting. But here's how I know he's deleting videos, because while he was doing this interview, at the very end of it, and by the way, there's a couple of things that he talked about in this video: his own alien abduction when he was 5 and as an adult. And there was a very personal moment. I'm not going to talk about it. It's public knowledge. You guys can go watch the video. The link is in the description. It's the most honest moment I've ever seen outside of Thomas Fessler, but it's also hands down the saddest thing I've ever heard anybody say. So up to you if you guys want to go find that. I just don't feel right saying it because it's sad. It's just terrible. And he also claims, they also talk about in this interview, claims of underwater writings in the Cocos Islands and the possibility of the moon being fake. So some really good, solid UAP, UFO topics here to discuss. But yeah, yes, erasing videos. So at the end of this video, he begs the Goofon audience to join him at his show that continues as soon as he gets off of Goofon. So when you go to Thomas Fessler's channel, there's no video on August 3rd. I wonder why. I wonder, because he just left Goofon's and he was going to go over there to talk about who's lying and other things that Goofon touched upon. And by the way, Goofon was on his show and his channel multiple times. And then they had a falling out. They're not friends anymore. How convenient. So insanely convenient. I've seen Thomas Fessler use Alien Girl for subscriptions. Milk that for what it's worth, and he switched to Goofon, milk that for what it's worth, and now he's switched to Lou Elizondo and milking it for everything he possibly can. You think like my show is if you like, dude, this is the creepiest, dirtiest dudes I've dealt with in this discussion. And there's a few more. But let's see what else he's got to say.
I think they know. It's kind of like they have the information, they have the stuff. They're just keeping the stuff secret and just freaking lying to us, and we're just gonna be, continuing some of the conversations you had the other day with respect to who can we trust?
Who can we trust? Who should we?
The whole thing with LMHD, and everybody else has just been.
Did you put a D on the end of that?
Yeah, of course.
Who doesn't? Howdy doody.
Yeah,
that's unreal. That's getting some legs.
Yeah, it is. I mean, come on, look at.
Now, me and Jane have had these discussions. I'm not a big fan of Linda Moulton Howe's work, but I've always respected her. I've always kept it as respectful as I possibly can with Linda Moulton Howe. This next moment that they have on this channel is so cringe that even Goofon was like, oh my God, I didn't mean to play this way. Basically, he's about to play a video of Steve Cambion with a mask on his face with a little beret and looking like Linda Moulton Howe, and petting a stuffed cat and talking about, don't I have a nice pussy? That's what, and boy, wait till you hear what they say about this little sketch, I guess you call it, from Steve Cambion.
The picture of E.T. the extraterrestrial looks like her.
But not before he compares Linda Moulton Howe's looks to E.T. the extraterrestrial and drag. First he does that, then we get to the pussy talk.
Oh, that's right. Hold on, I think I have that. I've got to show it.
Yeah, you do.
All right, I'm bringing over LMHD. There we go.
Oh, there we
So
go.
he's egging on Goofon to whip out this picture. So here we go. We got the picture. Let's see what they got to say.
Poor Linda. She let herself go.
Yeah, but it's the same jewels, the same outfit, same hairdo.
Did you see Cambion? Did you see what he did? Stephen Cambion from Truth Seekers on Linda?
What did Steve Cambion do? Pull it up there, Rich.
I'm in the moment, heavy duty. And this is my pretty pussy.
Yeah, I didn't want to play that part.
He didn't want to play that part.
Hey, man, I forgot how long that P word goes on.
I forgot how long that P word goes on. So clearly he's ashamed. Here's what happened is Rich from Goofon got this video, laughed his ass off by himself at home, decided to whip it out during a live stream, and realized immediately how disgusting, crude, and insulting this video was.
Here's the thing. I am all for humor. I love a good sketch. I'm
with you.
so there for a good Linda Moulton Howe impression. I'm so there for it. But guys, you gotta actually be funny, because
Jane.
if you're not funny, all you're gonna come across of is offensive, and you're not gonna make anybody laugh. Like,
it gets worse, Jane. Just wait. Just listen to these next comments. And remember, this is your hero now, Thomas Fessler, the guy carrying the torch for Lou Elizondo. This is the guy you want at the front of the line carrying that torch. Listen to what he says. And then, of course, remember how angry you were when Rather called Lou Elizondo a bully. And you thought that hit your ears really badly. Let's see how this hits your ears.
She's got two pussies. She's got Fluffy in the front and Chocolate in the back. Fluffy needs trim and Chocolate needs a shave.
Oh my God.
Even Thomas Fessler or even Goofon is like, oh my God, I can't believe you're saying that. You shocked Goofon. You shocked Rich from Goofon. You sick fuck.
all the places for your mind to be, I get there's the drama on Twitter to be distracted, but this is like UFOs and aliens.
Yeah.
Like, this is very exciting stuff to talk about and think about. There's plenty of Linda Moulton Howe research to talk about and think about. How is your mind going to these places so frequently?
Keep in mind how upset they were with women misrepresenting and embarrassing the community, but this somehow doesn't.
This is so the height of hypocrisy.
And I'm sorry, again, I needed to call this out. I'm so sick of his bullshit.
I would never learn about any of this, Luis.
Nobody does. Nobody does. So I wanted to make everyone aware because he came after us so hard. And I warned him, don't do it. I warned him in a private message, and we ended that private message cordially. And he came out with that video. I was up till 4 a.m. editing this. I've never been so elated and motivated to edit something in a very long time. So thank you for that boost of energy, because I am so upset that this guy is now somehow being taken seriously on any level in this community as some sort of champion for Lou Elizondo. Be careful going on this show.
There's the rub right there.
Yeah.
There really is a difference between comments online from people who maybe are just having a bad day, taking things out on you, versus somebody that has a platform.
Rather, what are your thoughts so far, man?
Disgusting. Yeah. I'm pretty shocked that This is I don't really watch Thomas Fessler at all, but now I know why I don't.
I had to watch 4 hours of both Goof On and Thomas Fessler last night. Let me tell you, it was terrible. I had to do a lot of work to make this happen for you guys. So
I'm sorry for you, Lou. That sounds like an absolute hell.
It was terrible, but at the same time, man, it was kind of fun. It was like I felt like Mick West piecing together, a brand new simulator. So let's see what else Mr. Fessler has to say. This is almost done.
Oh my God, poor Linda.
Yeah, I did say that, bud.
He did say that.
Do you believe him, Rich?
No, God, no. I don't believe anything Lou says. Lou hasn't really brought anything to the field.
He's brought a lot of information that he's talked around the fringe about. That he kind of leads you to hear some information, but doesn't really open up and say what he can.
And right here, this is the part where Thomas Fessler calls for the arrest of Lou Elizondo. Let's see how he comes to that conclusion, shall we?
Now, if he was truly under non-disclosures, right? The levels of stuff that he has disclosed and talked about should be enough to go ahead and throw him in jail. Unless what he's talking about isn't real. But here's the real kicker. Lou's a government contractor right now.
Oh, is he?
He's an employee of the federal government.
Listen to this train of thought. I have no idea where this goes. I don't know what it means. Maybe you guys can help me out with it. But Lou's a federal government. Lou should have been arrested by this point. And if he hasn't been arrested, it means the story's bullshit. So let's see what else he's got to go.
And the thing is, if he is an employee in that role, and he is, or not an employee, and a contractor of the federal government, and we're going up against the DOD in something, we literally have a virtual cat fight going on between the DOD and between some other unknown entity that they're not being honest about. Okay, Lou, who do you work for? What's your role? You're on all these different live streams. You don't get paid for your appearances on it. Someone's paying your salary for all your time. Yeah. What is your job? What's happening? There's a big, aura of mystery around it that, if he was really upfront and clear about it, then we would have a good idea about it. But there's this, layer of mystery that's out there that just seems unnecessary.
Unnecessary. Did that make any sense to you?
What's changed between back then and now for Thomas to change his opinion? My guess is that Lou Elizondo would go on his show and he'd get a little bit of views for it, right?
That's my guess. And this dummy right here was the guy who made that happen. And I'm not making that up. You could go check out Spaced Out Radio's archive when me and Thomas were on the channel, and he thanked me profusely for giving him that information. I was embarrassed. I felt so stupid. I knew this would happen. And I think part of me thought, yeah, I'll just give him Lou's info, thinking that they would have saw his channel and been like, no way, I'm not going on this dude's channel. But
hey, guy, I want to. I don't think Thomas is in this chat or anybody's in this chat. Lou Elizondo or Jeremy Corbell or Tom DeLong, none of these people are going to give you a medal for making a YouTube video defending them. Like, there's not going to be a reward for it. There's not going to be a prize for it. And I think there's a little bit of this, I want to be like the good student and, be like teacher's pet and teacher's favorite. And there's no bucket of gold at the end of that rainbow. All we have is the sightings and the research and the reports. And that's all that we need to focus on. This has gotten so extreme lately, this like cult of personality, as I've seen that phrase going around lately. And like all it's just you really at the end that you come into this world alone and you leave this world alone. And we're so attached to these personalities. And come on, it's 2022, guys. Come on. Yeah. Wake up.
I just love this. This guy throws out there, oh, really, Lou? Is that what Thomas said? I don't think so. Nice try. This is video and audio of him saying these things. Well, I don't understand what
part?
what part of this am I making up? What's the nice
That's Thomas
try?
Fessler's evil twin.
Yeah, it's somebody. I wonder if he's got an alt account. And by the way, if you don't like, this divisive kind of content, I'm just defending myself. I'm just defending myself like I don't know, Lou Elizondo defended himself against trolls and attacks. Right? That's acceptable behavior. I'm just following the lead. I'm just defending myself, right?
But publicly, as you are on your own YouTube channel, where you could risk people unsubscribing, if they,
Listen, this comment is just a joke. Fessler has done a lot of this community. He does 6 shows a night and works really hard. That's not an excuse for misogyny, racism, fat shaming, and just being an overall sick bastard.
Putting out filth 6 times a night doesn't make it right.
No, absolutely not. And good luck. I hope you enjoy his channel. Really, I hope you get that kick out of it. Let's.
He's probably stay over there.
He probably should. Let's see. Let's end this thing. Let's see what else he's got to say.
I mean, you got Christopher. You've got Christopher Mellon.
And apparently, Christopher Mellon doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Let's hear why.
He supposedly has all this information, but on his last video that he was on CNN, he's going and saying all these crafts are flying at hundreds of miles per hour. No, Christopher. They're reportedly going at 46,000 miles an hour plus. We've got some people who are watching them in near Earth orbit going at 76,000 miles an hour plus.
Who are these people? Who are these people watching these things in low orbit going 76,000 miles per hour plus? How are they measuring that mile per hour? How are they coming to that number? What are you talking about? But let's continue. Oh, and here's another wonderful comment. Thomas Fessler is a global trash heap. Is that what you want to hear? Yes. Yes. When humans act like this, I think finally some truth out of disclosure, heroes. Yes. Yes, that's exactly what your response to this kind of behavior should be. Very good.
How can you take something that's such a basic fact about this and just get it wrong when you're going and talking about it?
Well, I appreciate you being yourself, because there's a lot of people out there who put on the voice and the face.
Yeah,
you can't. For me, it's hard to trust them, but that's why I'm saying your show seems, and it is, authentic.
Yeah, well, maybe we could get you on.
Oh,
yeah, sure, absolutely, of course, yeah, whenever,
anytime, buddy.
To do that,
yeah,
and that's that
against Lou, spreading lies against Lou. That is a freaking lie. That is a freaking lie.
So there we go. There's Thomas Fessler for you guys.
Know way more about him than I ever wanted to.
I was none the wiser, before this stream. So if I'm just, and also I would say, and I don't want to bring up other drama too, but even the other day when we were breaking down other things, like I don't even know about any of the sock puppet Twitter comments. So all of my reactions have been to this was literally just what I saw on my screen. And then even to the Lil Zondo Rather stuff, it was just me watching how he answered that question and talked to Rather. So all of my opinions are literally just, that's it. That's it. I have no other context or information or private messages or anything, to add to the table.
Yeah. Well, again, I thought that was valuable. And guess what? I do feel better. I do feel better.
Worth
I'm
it.
glad. I think it was worth it too. My girlfriend was like, please don't do this. But she was like, please don't do this. This is going to hurt. This is just going to come back and bite you in the butt. It's going to be a never ending thing. I'm never mentioning this channel on my show ever again. I think we've learned more than enough about who Thomas Fessler is and what he's about. And if you want to go support that, man, I am going to sit on the shoreline and get a nice set of binoculars and watch that ship burn, because it's already on fire. So good luck.
It's going to be
getting off that boat.
It's going to be hard to stay monetized on YouTube just from that perspective. Just
it might be actually. It might be. Now that I kind of think of it, I think I can make a report on that video about being offensive and abusive, you know, or a channel that's offensive and abusive.
Sounds like somebody will eventually, if we just give
eventually.
it enough time.
Yeah, I think it'll happen. But yeah, I sometimes, like you said, rather, you just got to call out the bullshit. And that guy's bullshit. Sorry. He is.
Purge.
And if you're a fan of him, you're bullshit too.
Rewatch this last segment then.
Yeah, rewatch this last segment. If you're a fan of him after this segment, I mean, I don't know. Go check a human.
I would say if you're actually
not,
a fan of him, be an actual fan of him. Because I think people that talk like this are usually coming from a place of hurt, or they've had bad experiences, maybe with women, maybe actually bad experiences. We don't know where these things come from. So I would say be an actual fan. Be supportive. Maybe encourage the more positive conversations and give feedback that's good for him as well. Because I don't think any of this is a good cycle to get stuck in, right? So
yeah. No, it's why we're getting off the merry-go-round. This was the my sort of like, you know, like I needed, like, I mean, look, and there have been other people that I've been dying to do this with, and I haven't, because I decided to take the high road like I normally do. But after this last week, I was just like, nah, this ain't gonna stand. Not this one, not this one. It's too easy. Too easy. He made it. This was underhand softball, knock out of the park, easy to do, and it was a delight, because now I feel like I've gotten something off my chest. I feel better, and I also have informed everybody who this person is, which makes me feel good. So, all right, you guys, thanks for sticking around for 20 extra minutes. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties and the late start, and thank you guys all so damn much for joining us in the chat. Thank you, Mick West. Thank you, Alec Sears. Thank you, Das Tapes. If you want to check out our links for Jane, Rather, me, all of them are in the description below. I'll be adding Alec Sears' link in there as well. And we also have the links to the videos that we showed, so that way there's no copyright infringement or problems on this video. The links are in the description. By the way, Thomas used our video yesterday without any permission from me, so I guess tit for tat, as they say.
And this is fair use. It was definitely transformative content.
Definitely transformative content. That is for sure. All right. Well, let's see. What else do I got? That's it. Thank you, Patreon members. Thank you, everybody out there, for the super chats. We got a few of them, and somebody had said, thanks for answering me today, Lou. But can we move on for personal attacks? I'm here to learn. Yeah, this is my last one, Lisa Bowden. So unless, of course, unless, of course, I feel compelled maybe one day to do this again. I hope I don't. But you never, ever know. I'll never say never. Eventide, Asheville, Matt Sapero, Matthew Riot, Mr. Calhoun, Crime Prevention, Stefan Bodin. I think I mispronounced that. I always do. James Doyle. Sorry, Stefan. I don't know whose name this is. Again, Crime Prevention. All these Bottled Water, Muscle High, Nick, Eventide, Future Rider. Thank you guys for the questions. We love you all. Stay safe out there. Until Friday, when we got Chris Lito, we'll see y'all soon. Thank you so much for coming aboard, getting weird with us here on another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. Until next time, you guys, we love you very much. Stay safe out there. Peace.
Now, News 12 Sports with Pat Murphy.
Great news regarding Bills tight end Kevin Everett. He moved his arms and legs today, and doctors now believe that's the wrong video, by the way. That is not the right video.
I'm going to tell you all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom, you're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support.